Joining us from Washington, David Rittgers, an analyst at the Cato Institute and former Army captain with 3 tours in Afghanistan. And from Austin, Texas, Peter Zion, Vice President of Strategic Intelligence for Stratfor.com. So I'm begin with you. Reading your dispatch, Stratfor's dispatch, which people can see if they go to BillO'Reilly.com, you say that after 9/11, President Bush was faced with a massive intelligence failure, didn't know whether there was another attack coming imminently, and there were reports, intel reports, that the attack might be nuclear in nature, a low-level nuke device. That's why the U.S. government used these techniques on Zubaydah and a couple of other captured al-Qaeda big shots. Do I have it right?
Yeah, you have to remember back to the time frame we're talking about here, 2001. It had been 10 years since the United States had faced any serious threat, and so basically our intelligence apparatus had been disassembled. Now there's 2 things you have to look at from an intelligence point of view: situational awareness and specific threat. For situational awareness, getting the lay of the land, figuring out who's in the faction, terror is awful for that. I'm sorry, torture is awful for that, because people will tell you whatever you want to know. Torture is really only good for the specific threat scenarios, the type of thing that al-Qaeda is normally involved in, because you have to have a specific person who has specific information about a specific attack, all of which you already know about, and you have to have the person in your custody already. In that situation only, torture makes a certain amount of sense.
Okay, but you know, the word torture is loaded, Captain, and you know that. Some people say, dunking somebody in the water for 40 seconds isn't torture, it's coerced interrogation, whatever. But Vice President Cheney contends that memos that have not been made public say that what was gleaned from Sheikh Mohammed, Khalid Mohammed, Zubaydah, and the other guy that was waterboarded saved American lives. Do you believe that?
Well, we need to look at all that they said when they were being waterboarded. Certainly they said some things that were true, but they also said some things so they wouldn't be suffering
but if American
drowning.
lives were saved, all right, if they were able to disrupt plots, we know one on a Brooklyn Bridge, a couple of others, that saved lives, Captain, was the technique that we know now worth doing that?
Well, they also sent us on a bunch of wild goose chases all over the globe.
That doesn't matter, Captain. Captain, it doesn't matter. The question is, with all due respect, and I do respect you, Cheney says lives were saved. Is it worth doing waterboarding, keeping them up late in cold rooms, stress positions, to save lives? Is it worth it, sir?
We could have gotten the same information by following the time-proven techniques that interrogators have always used.
And you're positive of that?
Well, we'll never know, because we went ahead and made these extraordinary...
But you just stated we could have gotten, and now you're saying we'll never know. Look, here's the deal, and I want everybody to understand this. If I'm the President of the United States, Captain, and I believe you too, and we have an imminent threat, because that's what the government thought after 9/11, there was going to be another attack, and you have guys that aren't giving up any info, and you have a choice of dunking them in the water with an attending physician standing by, you dunk them in the water, Captain. I think you would have done it too.
Well, look, all this talk of the ticking nuke, it comes from watching too many seasons of 24. The reality is that we didn't know what we didn't know, and using waterboarding to go fishing for intelligence produces a lot of bad information, and it's counterproductive, and it produces just a lot of bad information and strikes back at us.
What do you say to that, Mr. Zion?
Actually, on that last point, I definitely agree with the good captain. Torture interrogation is only effective when you know a specific person has specific information that you need.
We already heard that. I'm getting a little impatient with you, gentlemen. If you were the president, Mr. Zion, and you facing the lack of intelligence that we were facing, and you were facing intel that said another attack is coming, would you have waterboarded these men?
I would have to know more.
You'd have to know more about what?
I'd have to know more about the people and know more about the attack. Torture
okay, all right, that's not a bad answer, all right, because we don't know what President Bush knew. Presumably we will when he writes his book. But let's say that Cheney is telling the truth, and he's putting up. He's putting up. He wants those memos released. And the memos say that the intelligence that they gleaned from these actions, Mr. Zion, saved American lives and disrupted plots that would have killed Americans. Are you going to then say it wasn't worth doing, sir?
those techniques have to be part of the arsenal.
All right, so you're going to say
but they have to
they have to be part of the option that only the president can order. You're going to say, I just want to get you on the record. You're with me
I
on
agree with that. Yes.
Okay. But
Yes.
Captain, you dissent. You still wouldn't use them under those circumstances.
Well, look, you're creating this hypothetical, and
It's not a
there's a bunch of
hypothetical,
cherry picking
Captain.
on both sides.
No, it's not a hypothetical. There are memos that Obama has not released that he could tomorrow, and he should, that say, here's what we got, and here's what was disrupted. It's not a hypothetical. Cheney said last night on this network, he wants them released so everybody can see it. So you got to assume the guy's not lying.
We're never going to be happy in this declassifying contest. We can declassify the cherry picking that Cheney is asking for, but then we'd also have to declassify all of the dead ends that didn't go anywhere. Maybe
on that. All right, gentlemen, we appreciate you coming on.